such a storied career. You're a successful writer, businesswoman, and resilience is everything in life. And very few people know how intimately that is as you. You've had a multifaceted career, from writing 15 books to building a game-changing company and launching a $120 million plus startup. But you've also faced failure and learned to embrace it. Today, you're focused on changing the way we work and live by ending the epidemic of stress, burnout, and helping people prioritize their time. That's a pretty big mission, don't you think? And I think that's a big thing that we're talking about here, right? It's not just about work. And Alexis Ohanian, who actually just invested in Girlboss to help us build the Girlboss community, said recently, used the term hustle porn. We were just talking about this in the back room, and there's really this, and I think I've been guilty of this, and if you read Girlboss, it's about the hustle and the grind, and I think Gary Vee's really at the top of this. It's like hustle, hustle, hustle. And it's important to work hard, but it's also important to take a break. How do you feel what do you think is wrong with the way we think about this hustle culture, and what do you think we can do to change it?
Well, first of all, I'm thrilled to be here. I really believe that this room has the opportunity to change the culture. You have so much power, you have so much decision-making ability, and we're in the middle of this zeitgeist where we are going from this hustle porn, I love that, this delusion that in order to succeed, you have to burn out, you have to be perpetually on, you have to sacrifice every aspect of yourself, to the truth, which is based on all the latest science, that in fact, when we take care of ourselves, we can achieve our peak performance. That's what I want you all to leave today believing, that when you don't take care of yourself, you're actually sacrificing sustainable peak performance. And look around you. I mean, look at what happened with Elon Musk. Isn't that a great teachable moment? Here you have somebody who understands that we need to change the way we use energy for our cars, but is still living in pre-scientific times when it comes to how we use human energy. You can't really be always on and make good decisions. It just doesn't work. Can we all look back in our lives when we made bad decisions, when we were overreactive and connected to how exhausted we were? Well, anything you want to do in life, I know there are a lot of entrepreneurs here, requires decision-making. We have a great group of team members from Thrive. Would you all stand wherever you are? Because they can all talk to you about how we are doing it at Thrive. We work hard. There are times when you maybe have to pull an all-nighter, or times when you have to go the extra mile. But how quickly do you refuel? That's the key. We have what we call Thrive time. So when you overextend yourself, you take time to quickly refuel and be able to operate at peak performance.
So you founded Thrive Global. And for anybody here who doesn't know what Thrive Global is, I'd love for you to tell us about Thrive Global and what it is that you do.
So 2 years ago, I left the Huffington Post because I wanted to spend the rest of my life, 100% of my time when I'm not sleeping and recharging, to help change the culture by being able to provide a media platform. The Thrive platform is like the Huffington Post except with no politics. And it's all about how can we live our best lives by bringing you the latest science and new role models. People in the arena who actually are living their lives in different ways. Like Jeff Bezos writing for us that he sleeps for 8 hours a night because it improves his decision making. Or Selena Gomez writing why she goes on a regular digital detox to be able to connect with herself and connect with those she loves and not be lost in all the distractions of social media. And we have over 35,000 contributors. We'd love you all to write about your journey, link to anything you want to help you drive attention or users to whatever it is you're doing. We are big believers in partnerships, in supporting each other, in collaborations, because we feel that's the future. And well, I'm going to give you my email address to make it super easy for you to email anything you want and post it anywhere you want.
So we're networking here.
We have, you know, we have zero interest in exclusivity. You can post it on Sophia's new LinkedIn, great product. You can post it on your Facebook, anywhere you want. And my email is very simple, ah@thriveglobal.com. And then the other part of the business is B2B. We go into companies and help them improve their culture and improve outcomes, you know, reduce attrition, improve recruitment, improve productivity with workshops, e-courses, and digital products, where everything that we do in workshops is also available online. So that's very quickly what Thrive Global is. We've already launched in India, in Europe. We see it very much as a global epidemic of stress and burnout, and our goal is to end that stress and burnout epidemic. How many people here are feeling stressed or sleep deprived? Great. You know, honestly.
God, you guys go to bed. Should we just do a mass nap?
You know, I promise it doesn't have to be this way. And that's like for me, as a mother of two 20-something daughters, that's what I keep telling them. It doesn't have to be this way. You can actually achieve amazing things and enjoy your life in the process. And isn't that what we all want?
Yes. And so I'm so curious about the beginnings of Thrive, because you've described how you reached peak burnout in 2007, and there was an incident that really kind of changed your mind about sleep and about exhaustion. Can you tell us about that and what happened and how that led you to found Thrive Global?
Yes, actually, I did everything wrong for many, many years. And then in 2007, it was 2 years into building the Huffington Post. And it was also the time when I had gotten divorced. I had 2 teenage daughters, which is not easy. And I literally thought I was going to be super mom, super founder, and I ended up collapsing, hitting my head on my desk, breaking my cheekbone, almost losing my third eye. And so that was my painful wake-up call that got me looking around and saying, hey, there is another way to do life and to do success. And I started by bringing all these ideas into our coverage at the Huffington Post. And by 2016, I knew that I really wanted to do this full time, because at the heart of Thrive is not just speaking and writing, but behavior change. You know how you may say, I want to be less stressed. I understand if I'm less stressed, I can actually be more effective at everything I want to do. But the question is, how can you get from knowing what to do to actually doing it?
The eternal question.
That's the eternal question, and I feel we've cracked the code, because we have come up with over 700 micro steps that you can begin to take one at a time that help you change your behavior in whatever direction you choose. You want more sleep, you want more gratitude, you want more mindfulness, you want less stress. The micro steps will help you get there. And we call our micro steps too small to fail. You know how often you have these New Year resolutions, and maybe you do lose 10 pounds in a month, and then you put it back on in 3 weeks. So for us, it's all about sustainable behavior change. Shall I tell you my favorite micro step?
Yes. How many can you tell us? Are they that small? Okay, tell us your favorite.
My favorite micro step out of the over 700 is to pick a time at the end of the day that you declare the end of your day. And you mark the end of your working day by taking your phone, turning it off, and gently escorting it out of your bedroom. We have even made a little charging station that looks like a phone bed. It has a little blankie. And you put your phones under the blanket, you tuck them in, you say goodnight, and you reconnect in the morning, and you and your phone are fully recharged. The reason why that is an important micro step is that I bet nobody here is able to say at the end of each day, I've done absolutely everything I could have done today. Am I right? If anybody here can say that, I suggest you change jobs, because it means your job isn't interesting and challenging enough. So, given that we can never finish absolutely everything, we need to learn to prioritize, and we need to be comfortable with incompletions, and to know that everything will be there for us in the morning.
And to prioritize, sometimes you have to say no. I'm just so curious. What is the most polite way to say no? Can you just give us like a handful of ways to say politely no? I mean, I'm sure you get so many requests, but to make time for yourself, it really requires, you know, choosing something, because when you say no to one thing, you're saying yes to something else.
Exactly.
How do you say no politely?
Well, first of all, women especially, we need to remind ourselves that no is a complete sentence. We really forget that. So once you remember that, we need to tell the truth. In my case, it's like my focus right now at work is building Thrive. And anything that doesn't go into building Thrive has to go by the side, because focus is absolutely key in any business. You know, this is my second startup. And the key to creating a successful company is, as you said, Sophia, choosing what to say no to, both in terms of how you spend your time, but in terms of what the priorities are for the company. And so everything I'm doing, I mean, I love social media. You know, you can follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter, etc. But I also am very clear about setting boundaries to social media, so that it never sort of takes me over, because we are all slightly addicted, right? And we need to set our own boundaries so that we don't find ourselves losing our energy and being so distracted instead of being focused on what we want to do.
And so people talk a lot about balance, right? Do you believe in balance? Do you think it's about integrating our lives? How do we navigate this concept of balance?
So I don't actually believe in balance, because I think that there's never going to be a time when our work and our life are sort of balanced like that. I think it's more recognizing that we have one life. And so how do we integrate it all so that when we show up at work or with our family or with our boyfriend or girlfriend, we are fully present? And what is so important to me now, and I wish it was important to me when I was your age, is that I don't want just to be effective and productive. I also want to enjoy my life. Because, you know, this is it, guys. And what's the point of getting to the end of your life and saying, yes, I achieved a lot of things, but I was miserable. My children don't talk to me. I don't have any good close friends. So how do we integrate all that so that we actually connect with our own wisdom and peace and strength and joy as we face whatever challenges life is bringing us?
So you wrote a lot about, in your book, the sleep revolution, about the science of sleep. What did you learn? Just, you know, We know sleep can help a number of things, but tell us why, because the why is so important.
Yes. So, Thrive, which is the first book I wrote after my collapse, and The Sleep Revolution are the two books that basically give you all the science and the tips and techniques of how to build that life. And the book about sleep is really based on all the latest science that shows us that when we are asleep, our brain is actually hyperactive. This is the time when our brain cleans up all the toxins from the day. So if we don't give it enough time to clean up the toxins, these toxins accumulate. And it means we are not just exhausted, but our cognitive performance is diminished. So we can't really make the right decisions. Mental health is impaired. We see an incredible connection between sleep deprivation, depression, and anxiety. We see the connection with women who've had children, postpartum depression and sleep deprivation. So we basically work with the companies who work with, as well as the people who come to the site, to help them understand that getting enough sleep is not negotiable. So you may want to know what's enough sleep. Anybody wants to know that? So some of you here may have a genetic mutation, and you don't need a lot of sleep. It's about 1.5% of the population. If you're not sure, you can have a genetic test. I mean, I'm sure I don't have a genetic mutation, because if I have 4 hours sleep, I'm like a zombie. So for those of us who don't have a genetic mutation, it's 7 to 9 hours. And where you are in that spectrum is individual. Like, Sophia, it sounds like from our conversations, you're a 7-hour girl.
I'm an 8-hour girl.
You're an 8-hour girl?
But I get 7.
I'm an 8-hour girl. So, okay, if you try to get a little more every night, again, micro step, like go from 7 to 7 hours and 5 minutes. And then 7 hours and 10 minutes, gradually. Don't say, I'm going to go from 7 to 8. Just do it gradually. And then what happens when you get the right amount of sleep, and you know how you know that? You wake up without an alarm. I still put the alarm on because just in case, if I have to catch a flight or be at a meeting. But I now, for the last 3 years, have always woken up without an alarm. And it's a wonderful feeling. And you can remember your dreams, which is amazing, because they give you so many insights about life. And then here's the other thing, because your phone is not by your bed, right? So when you wake up, give yourself, that's another micro step, give yourself 1 minute. Can you give yourself 1 minute in the morning before you go to your phone? Yes? Give yourself 1 minute to remember what you're grateful for, or to set your intention for the day, or to breathe consciously. Bottom line is, the minute you go to your phone, it's the world's demands on you. It's what does the world demand of you. That minute is about what do you want from the world. It's your agenda as opposed to the world's agenda dominating your life from the beginning.
So something we love to hear about, and by the way, I have a great tip. If you don't put your phone in a bed in another room, put it on airplane mode, because you'll wake up and you won't have all of those notifications, and at the very least you can look at the time before it all just becomes this deluge of information that you don't need at that time of the day.
But here's the problem with that. The problem with that is that if you wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom or for whatever reason, you are going to be tempted to go to your phone if you can't go straight to sleep. And often with the best willpower, people go to the phone. Here's the thing. Don't make your behavior change dependent on your willpower. Your willpower is going to lose.
So what kind of alarm do you recommend then? Like who makes your alarm?
Okay, so Pottery Barn.
Say that again?
Pottery Barn.
Oh, Pottery Barn.
Has Don't you like, she's also kind of half Greek, but she translates the Greek accent really well. Oh, you mean pottery barn?
Sorry. It's like bobble bar?
Trust me, I tried to change my accent, and I only relaxed about it when I met Henry Kissinger, and he said to me, don't worry about your accent. In American public life, you can never overestimate the advantages of complete and total incomprehensibility. So they have a beautiful kind of vintage-looking alarm clock. It's $35. I don't get a commission.
You have to make one.
We should make one, but I give them to friends for holidays. And we also have our little bed, which we sell under cost on Amazon. It comes in mahogany and light wood.
What's it called? How do you find it? What's it called?
What?
How do you look for it? Is it called Thrive?
The Thrive, yes. The Thrive, Arianna's charging station, phone bed.
Arianna's bed. You can buy Arianna's bed on Amazon.
You can buy my bed on Amazon.
So one thing we've talked a lot about, and I think the general theme of this talk was going to be about failure. And we've all experienced plenty of failure. I talked about plenty of it this morning. So I just have one question about it. What happens when you're in crisis? What happens when you fail? How have you recovered?
Well, first of all, I've had so many failures. And one day, I think all of us should just have a conference where we only talk about our failures. But let me mention just one that was pretty critical in terms of what happened in my life. My first book I wrote when I was 23, and it did extremely well. And then I wrote a second book about the crisis in political leadership. I was living in London at the time, and I had used up all the money I made from my first book. So I had run out of money, and my book had been rejected by 36 publishers. So there I was, walking down St. James's Street, kind of feeling depressed and feeling, well, maybe the first book was a fluke, and I'm not meant to be a writer. Maybe I need to go get another job. And then I saw on St. James's Street, a Barclays Bank. So I walked in, and armed with nothing except a lot of Greek chutzpah, I asked to see the bank manager, and I asked for a loan. And for some reason, he gave me the loan. And that allowed me to keep going for a few more rejections until my book was finally published. And that was a huge lesson for me, because I could have given up so many times earlier. And it made me feel a little bit like, fairy tales where the hero or the heroine are lost in a dark forest, and all these little helpful animals come out to help them.
That's what we're here for.
Yes, exactly. All these helpful animals to help them get out of the forest. Well, this bank manager was really a helpful animal disguised as a bank manager. And I still send him a holiday card every year. And if you look at your life, I bet there are people like that, who are like your little helpful animals that come along to help you. And it's really very important to approach life with deep trust that things that happen that are failures in one way are also leading to the next big thing or the next best thing. And that's why my favorite quote that I live by is by Rumi, which is, live life as though everything is rigged in your favor.
And then it does become rigged, It just keeps, It stops being rigged, and then the rig starts to, this. I'm really articulate, you guys. Probably because I got plenty of sleep, just kidding. So there's two questions I ask in my podcast, and one is a girl boss moment. How many of you guys know what a girl boss moment is? We've all had girl boss moments. And so a girl boss moment is a time in your most recent history, the last few weeks or maybe the last month, where you did something for yourself. And it sounds like you think a lot about taking care of yourself, but it could be for someone else. And if it is for someone else, it's because you wanted to do it, not because of obligation. What was your most recent girl boss moment?
So my most recent girl boss moment which I think is very important for anybody here who is a founder, is to decide to expand my leadership team. Because I think as a founder, you often fall into the temptation of taking too much on yourself. Do you find that, Sophia?
Yeah, I try not to meddle, but yeah.
And I think being able to bring real talent in your leadership team that can help you execute the vision and the roadmap that you've put forward faster is, to me, an incredible girl boss moment. At whatever level you are in, can you create a team that actually is going to build your vision together? Because nobody can do it alone. And when you acknowledge that you need a team, you are able to also take better care of yourself, and you're able to be your best at work, and you're able to learn to support each other. So I think it's kind of fantastic when you see this collaborative spirit. And I know it's one of the things that you've been talking about today. How do you learn to build teams, to collaborate, to support each other, both inside and outside work? We have something that we do when we onboard new team members that we call the entry interview, which is basically asking people, that's the first question, what is important to you outside of work? Because whatever is important for you outside of work, we want to support you to achieve it. Because then you can bring your whole self to work.
And my last question is about success, because one thing we think a lot about at Girl Boss is redefining success, whatever that means for you. No longer has to mean just making money and just achieving things, which, yes, allows you to pay for everything else in your life. But it's personal to all of us, and it can change. We're allowed to change our mind. Sometimes we forget that. But what does success mean to you right now?
Well, success for me has to be redefined, both for me and for all of us, to go beyond money and power, and to include what I call the third metric of success, which is well-being. You know, if we lose our health, success is pretty meaningless. Wisdom, you know, how can we connect with our deeper wisdom to be able to really make wise decisions? A sense of wonder. You know, it's so often the case that we lose a sense of wonder about life, especially because we buy into this illusion that we need to be multitasking all the time to be efficient. I mean, I live in Soho, and you can hardly walk down the streets of Soho without seeing people either texting and walking or being on the phone and walking. And if you're just walking, they think you can't really be of any importance. And they feel it's your job to get out of the way. And I remember when I stopped doing that, walking by a beautiful building and telling the friend I was with, this is an amazing building. When did it go up? And she said, 1930. So wonder is key, because what else are we missing? And the fourth part of the third metric is giving. How can we make giving and impact a part of success? So for me now with Thrive, it's like having an impact to help people live lives of less stress, more productivity, more health, and more happiness.
Well, Arianna, thank you so much for giving us so much tonight and so much of your time.
Thank you.
This is amazing.